Around the world, businesses have had to make tough decisions and make many of their people redundant in order for the business to survive. They then need to rally the remaining people to possibly do extra work, improve productivity, restore reputation, increase sales and revenue, and so on. I think too many leaders expect that those remainers will respond because they'll be grateful to have a job. But the truth may be that their people feel insecure, feeling their job may be unsafe, and start looking for other posts. So how to rally remainers and do it effectively is the question that I wanted to put to global human capital expert and managing partner of Parrish Partners. Welcome back, Dr. Jeanette Winters.
Hello, Malcolm. Good to be with you.
Great to talk to you. Jeanette, am I correct in thinking that it's not so simple to rally remainers after redundancy splurge? Or is the fact that those remainers still have a job enough to secure their loyalty? Is it also a reflection on how the company went about doing the redundancy?
First of all, it is very important to acknowledge that this idea, oh, well, at least you have a job, is enough to satisfy the people's need to feel connected. That is absolutely false. The first thing I would say is to look in the mirror and to know and to acknowledge that this hits you too. You've had to let people go. You've had to say to someone who may have served you for years and served them well that the timing, the conditions, the whatever, that you just have to let them go. And a couple of don't say this is not personal, because it is personal to the person, the individual, the employee losing their job. And so once you have really looked at yourself and looked inward, which is very important, understand and recognize that there is what we call survivor's guilt. I've got my job, but my buddy doesn't. And how do I feel about that? In a way I feel relief, but the other side is the guy or gal that I would have coffee with, we'd have lunch together, we did all these projects together, is no longer there. That is absolutely very real, and we need to understand and address that sense of loss. And so it is important that leadership have that face-to-face conversation with employees, as a team or individuals, depending upon the size and complexity of and when I say face-to-face, referring to, as we're doing here, that one-on-one type of conversation. But letting people know that this was not done out of any sort of prejudice or any sort of animosity, that it was financially driven, it was market driven, whatever were the drivers. Be honest, be candid about it, but recognize that you need to tap into that. And it would be very helpful to ask someone, how are they feeling? And and is there anything that they'd like to discuss, given the situation. Survivor's guilt must be dealt with, because it will make people angry, it will make people irritable, it will be that underlying factor where somebody, suddenly people are starting to really butt heads, and it's because of the emotions that have not been dealt with. You and I have talked before about emotional intelligence, and our framing at Parrish Partners is name, claim, and air it. Name the emotion you're dealing with, claim it, and then air it, so that you are acknowledging to yourself out loud, but also to key colleagues, a spouse, a friend, whatever, that this is what you're grappling with.
Excellent.
The other thing, and part of that survivor's sense of guilt, is the fear of the unknown. And that really is absolutely present today. Here in the United States, many states started back to work, and now they're having to pull back. And, and people just, the unknown and the implications of whether I will have a job or not tomorrow, and whether I will be able to pay the mortgage or, feed the family, really weighs on people. Uncertainty, ambiguity is very challenging for people from a, a psychological perspective. And so, people are asking, am I next? And the thing that I will tell you is be transparent, authentic, and don't make promises you can't keep. One of my clients, the CEO, stood up after 3 rounds of layoffs and said, we're done. We do not, we are at the size that now will enable us to meet our financial objectives and take on those strategic initiatives. Well, he said that in December. And guess what? COVID hit. Well, and so I was brought in to help, sort of negotiate, because he had some very angry people when they had to have a 4th round of layoffs. And so one of the things I try to equip leaders with is this phrase, based on what is known today. You will hear that from me probably once an hour, because the certainty that we will operate today and tomorrow or next week in the same manner is virtually unheard of in the current situation, and we need to get used to that. We're not lying to people. We can just say, based on what is known today, this is the plan that we've got. We believe that the layoffs are over, but who knows, and look back at company history and say, look at what happened when, COVID hit. We thought we were done, but we had to cut staff further.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that I strongly recommend, and you've got to have backbone and heart to do this, call them AMA sessions, Ask Me Anything. And this level of putting yourself out there is not for everybody. But if you are in a key leadership position, you better get yourself ready to do that. Let people ask you the questions, because, somebody will say, oh, this is a stupid question, but 10 other people in the room are thinking the very same thing. Get those questions out and asked and answered. And if you don't have the answer, I don't know, but I'll check and we'll get back to you. The idea of being that humble and that human is very gratifying and gives people a lot of confidence in management. And that's what I'd recommend. But understand, I've had people ask me about my shoes. I've had people ask me about, where I live. But these AMA sessions are not good just during crisis, but during transition, a new leader, a reorganization, new product launches, all of that. They can be very, very helpful mechanisms to really get out some of that, the stuff that's operating on the company gossip wire.
I love that AMA strategy there. It really is a solid one, but as you say, needs somebody with backbone. So how should a leader, let's keep it very simple, as they call it, how should a leader go about rallying those Remainers? Is it simply a matter of, say, communicating more?
We need to understand that people will come along at their own pace, and that no matter what we say or do, that we are dealing with individuals. And not everyone will, at horse races, the gates open and horses fly out. Sometimes, not all horses do. They trip, they fall, they, whatever. Or they look around and get distracted. And so just as the race is intense and you want them to come out of the gate surging, understand not everyone will do that. Allow for that, give space for that, and even give opportunity for people to acknowledge, hey, when we would have this Monday meeting, Peter was the one that always brought cookies. We really missed Peter. We missed his cookies, but we really missed Peter. Encourage that sort of frankness, because what you don't want is you don't want it to go unspoken. Anything left unspoken is dangerous and can be a poison that will seep into the culture of the organization.
Brilliant. Well said. Now, many Remainers will have lost work friends, as you mentioned before, after that redundancy. And I guess those who've lost their jobs may be hostile to the company I was once made redundant by an American toy company on Christmas Eve of all times. Yeah.
Oh.
And they may try to make their remaining friends have doubt or cause concern. So what should leaders do about this?
Well, your example is a perfectly horrific one. And whenever I advise organizations as they're undertaking a reduction in force, is to be humane and that timing counts. You know, on Christmas Eve, I have a policy that, at least in the United States, I recommend if you don't lay them off by the middle of November, don't do it until the 1st of January. And why do I say that? Because Thanksgiving is a huge family holiday and Christmas fast follow. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't let people know that reductions in force are coming down the pike, but it's absolutely, I think timing is everything, and you need to be very, very careful. And the way you handle the reductions in force will set the tone and tenor for how everybody deals with it. So if you, for example, and we see that here in the airlines right now, the airlines have asked for people to optionally retire. And so, you know, they may sweeten the pie. They may get a little bit more of this benefit or a little bit more of that. And then what it allows the organization to do is invest their scarce resources in people they know that have longer runway with the organization. And so encourage that, because if you know, the thing is, what you don't want to do, you have 4 people and that do critical work, and you find out one is looking for another job, you know, and ultimately leaves. And this actually is a true scenario that I'm dealing with right now with an organization. The second is that somebody just announced their retirement. This is after, you know, 2 months ago of asking for volunteers, saying you'll get a much better separation package if you tell us now. Well, you know, but this person's retiring, so he doesn't really care. The other 2 are just like, we have 50% more work to do, and we don't have a clue how to get it done. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, that's why the way in which you go about doing it is also really clear. And having leadership stand out in front and explaining why you're doing this, how it was handled, and how the decisions were made. And I don't mean, you know, we got rid of Joe, he was substandard performance, or Sally's group has always had too many people, or whatever. But talking about the strategy that undergirds the separations, that's where you're going to get people to connect that remain. Oh, I see. We let that group go because we're not focusing on building new stores. We're going to be focusing much more on digital commerce. That's why we need more IT people. We don't need the people that plan the brick and mortar initiatives. So make it relevant so that people can connect with the strategy of why you let certain people go and why you're focusing from a business perspective on the strategies you are. It one without the other will leave people feeling lied to, completely dismissed or unimportant, and finally that they're next, that they're being fed a line.
You've given us so much food for thought there. After redundancy reduction, what are the really internal key issues that leaders need to face? Is it, say, training or replacing succession plans?
Understanding what you can and cannot do. If you are reducing staff, you should not take same set of work and distribute it amongst the remaining people. That just says you weren't managing the people that you had well enough, you know, from a work level or quantity perspective. So decide priorities, what is in and what is out, and be equally clear about both. The second thing is to make sure that people understand what level of responsibility and accountability that they have now, and making sure that they're equipped with that, and that comes with the learning and development. The fourth and final thing is, this is not a time for leaders to hide. You know, there's there's the individual who has they have other people, or they have HR doing the layoffs. Don't be a coward. If the people work for you, you need to be the one telling them they no longer have a job. Yeah. And you need to be out there and, as a leadership team, be on the same page and consistently describe the strategy that undergirded the decisions that were made. And just saying times are tough, we had to cut staff, is insufficient and frankly unacceptable.
I learned so much from you every time we meet, and some things resonate. And one of the ones that resonates is you saying to people, put the humane into human capital. Our businesses who do this and actually walk the walk or talk the talk, whatever the expression is these days, the ones that are positioned well for the future.
Absolutely. There is an organization that I do work with, and they are a technology company that, they've been going gangbusters. They had planned to increase their staff by 20% this year. And in fact, they were on target as late as February to both hire 20% new people and to grow their revenue. I think they were looking at about a 23 or 24% revenue increase, and they were on target. Very aggressive, but they had plans and they knew exactly what each person was going to do. Well, the brakes went on to the U.S. economy, and they, went into executive session, and they said, we are going to restructure and reframe the business. What projects are in and what are out. Boom. That how are we going to make the money and continue to invest in product development? So they strategically reset and then coupled the things that, and were very clear on this, what we were doing, what we're not going to do. And then they restructured the staff on that basis, brought everybody together, told everybody what the strategy was, why they were doing it, how far, how many cuts. They had to let 59 people go. They were retraining, reskilling some others that they knew had the aptitude, for example, to become coders instead of something else that they might have been doing. I mean, down to the gnat's eyelash detail. At the macro level, they then met with individuals and told the 59 people who was going. Do you know that half of those people have given verbal testimony that they have never felt better treated? They were being let go and still believe in the mission of the organization because they were so well treated. And the CEO personally went through his contact list and sent the list of 59 to all his buddies and said, these are top-notch people. We let them go because we had to, not because we wanted to. And if you have positions, I'd urge you to take a look at them. I mean, that's getting out there in front of it. You are the face of that organization, and so they're already seeing the fruit of all this change that they have introduced.
Brilliant. And, they mustn't forget as well, those people who are made redundant are customers and can talk and recommend. If they've had a good experience, they'll understand and recommend. As always, Dr. Jeanette Winters of Parrish Partners, as always, you've been brilliant. Thank you so much indeed for your time today.
Malcolm, be well.